Greatness and majesty, manhood and deity, in perfect harmony, the man who is God, Lord of eternity, dwells in humanity, kneels in humility, and washes our feet. Oh, what a mystery, meekness and majesty. Bow down and worship, for this is your God. This is your God. Oh, your God. Father's pure radiance, perfect in innocence, yet learns obedience to death on a cross, suffering to give us life, conquering through sacrifice, and as they crucify, praise, Father, forgive. Oh, what a mystery, meekness and majesty. Bow down and worship, for this is your God. This is your God. Wisdom unsearchable, but the invisible, love indestructible, in frailty appears. Lord of infinity, stooping so tenderly, lifts our humanity to the heights of his throne. Oh, what a mystery, meekness and majesty. Bow down and worship, for this is your God. This is your God. This is your
The first station, Jesus is condemned to death. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you,
because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. The high priest put a second question to Jesus. Are you the Christ, he said, the Son of the Blessed One? I am, said Jesus, and you will see the Son of Man seated at the right hand of the power and coming with the clouds of heaven. The high priest tore his robes. What need of witnesses have we now, he said. You heard the blasphemy. What is your finding? And they all gave their verdict. He deserved to die.
Judgment, condemnation. How often is judgment in my heart, on my lips? How often am I too quick to judge others, not making the time to understand them? So often I mistakenly jump to false conclusions, allowing resentment, rejection, to be born. Ours were the sufferings he bore, ours were the sorrows he carried. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The second station, Jesus carries his cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Here is your king, said Pilate to the Jews. Take him away, they said, crucify him. Do you want me to crucify your king? Said Pilate. The chief priests answered, we have no king except Caesar. So in the end, Pilate handed Jesus over to them to be crucified. They then took charge of Jesus, and, carrying his own cross, he went out of the city to the place of the skull, or, as it was called in Hebrew, Golgotha.
Debt, illness, anxiety and fear, insecurity, loneliness. There's just so much around that gives rise to suffering. Some of it visible, much of it invisible. Lord, help me to be aware of my need for your strength, your grace, so that with your help I can continue to carry my own cross. Ours were the sufferings he bore, ours were the sorrows he carried. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The third station, Jesus falls the first time. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Jesus said to the apostles, if the world hates you, remember that it hated me before you. If you belonged to the world would love you as its own. But because you do not belong to the world, because my choice withdrew you from the world, therefore the world hates you. Remember the words I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they will persecute you too. If they kept my word, they will keep yours.
Insecurity, fear of what others are going to think or say about me. How often is it that I allow that fear to govern my words, my actions? How often do I feel the pressure to go along with the crowd, to do the things I'd really rather not do? As were the sufferings he bore, as were the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The fourth station, Jesus meets his mother. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you,
because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. Seeing his mother and the disciples he loved standing near her, Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then to the disciple he said, "This is your mother." And from that moment the disciple made a place for her in his home.
How often do I take my family, my friends for granted? Are there times that they have to put up with a sharp word from me, a sharp word that cuts deep? Are there times when secrets that have been shared with me have been transformed into gossip? How do I deal with my sense of failure at expressing my sadness for the pain I've caused? As were the sufferings he bore, as were the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The fifth station, Simon of Cyrene helps Jesus to carry his cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you,
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. And when they had finished making fun of him, they took purple and dressed Jesus in his own clothes. They led him out to crucify him. They enlisted a passerby, Simon of Cyrene, the father of Alexander and Rufus, who was coming in from the country to carry his cross. They brought Jesus to the place called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull.
Can I honestly say, I put others? I do help others, do I count the cost? Have secret motivations? Do I help those who are in need willingly? Or like Simon, do I do it under duress?
Ours were the sufferings he bore, ours were the sorrows he carried. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed.
The sixth station, Veronica wipes the face of Jesus. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you, because
by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and give you drink? When did we see you a stranger and make you welcome, naked and clothe you, sick or in prison and go to see you? And the king will answer, I tell you solemnly, insofar as you did this to one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did it to me.
Do I take time to see Jesus in the people I meet? Do I see the people around me as God's loved creation, people worthy of my respect, no matter who they are? When I'm helping others, do I see beyond the issue or problem at hand to see the person in need? Are there many people that would say I had helped them in their hour of need?
Ours were the sufferings he bore, ours were the sorrows he carried. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed.
The seventh station, Jesus falls the second time. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you,
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. And yet ours were the sufferings he bore, ours the sorrows he carried. But we thought of him as someone punished, struck by God and brought low. Yet he was pierced through for our faults, crushed for our sins. On him lies a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. We had all gone astray like sheep, each taking his way. Yahweh burdened him with the sins of all of us.
How aware am I of the times I add to the burden of others? The situations where I've hurt others intentionally or unintentionally, others to stumble and fall. As the sufferings, the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The eighth station. Jesus meets the women of Jerusalem. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you,
because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Large numbers of people followed Jesus, and of women too, who mourned and lamented for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, do not weep for me. Weep rather for yourselves and for your children.
Do I show compassion to those who are suffering? Do I even allow myself to feel compassion for others? Or do I let my own sense of self-pity or feeling overwhelmed prevent me recognizing and responding to the needs of others, needs that are greater than my own so often? As were the sufferings he bore, as were the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The ninth station. Jesus falls a third time. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you,
because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. Down in the dust I lie prostrate. Revive me as your word has guaranteed. I admitted my behavior. You answered me. Now teach me your statutes. Explain to me how to keep your precepts, that I may meditate on your marvels. I am sleepless with grief. Raise me as your word has guaranteed.
Life, energy, talents and skills, sexuality, friendship. So many and so varied are the gifts that I've been given. But all too often, I take them for granted or misuse them. And once again, temptation wins. As were the sufferings he bore, as were the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The 10th station, Jesus is stripped of his clothes. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. They gave Jesus wine to drink mixed with gall, which he tasted but refused to drink. And when they had finished crucifying him, they shared out his clothing by casting lots.
Nakedness, vulnerability. Why am I afraid to let others know who I really am? Why is it so often I'm a hypocrite, clothing myself in ideas and attitudes that have nothing to do with what I really want? Lord, help me to know who you have made me to be. Ours were the sufferings he bore. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The 11th station, Jesus is nailed to the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. When they reached the place called the Skull, they crucified Jesus there, and the two criminals also, one on the right, the other on the left. Jesus said, "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing." Then they cast lots to share out his clothing.
Forgiveness, second chances. Rarely does anyone earn those gifts from me. How could they? The price I set too high. Why should I trust? They might do it again. At the heart of the matter, my fear. I'm scared of being hurt again. Ours were the sufferings he bore. Ours were the sorrows he carried. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The 12th station, Jesus dies on the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. It was now about the 6th hour, and with the sun eclipsed, a darkness came over the whole land until the 9th hour. The veil of the temple was torn right down the middle. And when Jesus had cried out in a loud voice, he said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." With these words, Jesus breathed his last.
Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. These words, so familiar to us, are so easy to say. And yet, easier still it is to forget them and to put my own will at the centre of all. The easy option, the attractive one, that becomes what the Father must want for me. After all, he wants what I want, doesn't he? And with that attitude, I don't even really need to pray or discern what it is that you really want of me. As were the sufferings he bore, as were the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The 13th station, Jesus' body is taken down from the cross. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. When they came to Jesus, they found he was already dead. And so, instead of breaking his legs, one of the soldiers pierced his side with a lance. And immediately there came out blood and water. After this, Joseph of Arimathea, who was a disciple of Jesus, though a secret one because he was afraid of the Jews, asked Pilate to let him remove the body of Jesus. Pilate gave permission.
Unfinished jobs, broken promises. How easy it is to give in to distraction, to allow myself to be sidetracked from what I should be doing. Does it even matter to me that others might feel let down, forgotten, neglected? As were the sufferings he bore, as were the sorrows he carried, he bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. The 14th station, Jesus' body is laid in the tomb. We adore you, O Christ, and we praise you.
Because by your holy cross you have redeemed the world. So Joseph took the body of Jesus, wrapped it in a clean shroud, and put it in his own new tomb, which he had hewn out of the rock. He then rolled a large stone across the entrance of the tomb and went away.
How often am I dead to the world, lazy, listless, without energy? How often is the journey given up on without it even being undertaken? Countless resolutions, and desires for new beginnings, to improve myself, to make more time for prayer, to be more generous. Come, gone, so easily forgotten, these resolutions lost as they're laid aside. Ours were the sufferings he bore, ours were the sorrows he carried. He bears a punishment that brings us peace, and through his wounds we are healed. And as we come to the end of this penitential way of the cross, it's easy for us to remain stuck in the awareness of our own human weakness and frailty. But let us remember the more important message of this journey, the depth of God's love for us, the capacity in Jesus to forgive. And so let's gaze on this image of the cross, focusing not on our own human frailties, but on the grace of God's love. And let that love inspire us to follow Jesus' example as we go forth.